Hello and reporting live from Enterprise. I'm joking. Hey guys, and welcome back to Locked on Blues. Today's episode is going to be a big one because Robert Thomas is an all-star. This is all coming up here on Locked on Blues.
You're Locked on Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked on Blues. I am your host of Locked on Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues. And I have to tell you, today's episode is going to be a fun one because the Blues beat the Canucks. It's always Robert Thomas season. And of course, are we feeling blue? So, a nice Friday, jam packed episode of Locked on Blues on this glorious Friday because a lot has happened in little blues land. And I am live at Enterprise right now, as you can tell. So, no, if you see any glitching, this is me at Enterprise. I decided that I wanted to be all blued up today. So, this is how today's episode's going to be. It's going to be a fun one because there's nothing but positivity to talk about. I do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code Locked On NHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. You probably know this already, but the Blues beat the Canucks last night. And I have to tell you, I knew this was going to happen. I told you, I'm okay. The score wasn't that high. It was 2-1. But I did say that St. Louis was going to beat Vancouver. I was right yet again. And you might be wondering, Haley, are you right? Or do you just know the pattern with the Blues? And I think I just know the pattern with the Blues at this point. It is funny to me, though, I'm going to be very honest, that it's this pattern with St. Louis where they really do play significantly better against teams that are not as good. I mean, teams that are good, and then they don't play as good when they were playing against teams that are not as good. But last night was a magical night. Let me recap this all. What's up, Ace? I'm live on YouTube, by the way. So during the Bruins and Penguins game, don't care for any of those teams. We beat the Bruins in the finals. So honestly, screw you, Boston. But we made Marchand cry, so it's fine. So they said after their first period, they were going to announce the Western All-Stars. And I'm going to talk about this, but guess who was announced? Obviously, it was Robert Thomas. I love Robert Thomas, my favorite player on the Blues. And that was really a cool way to kind of start off the night was seeing that being announced and then having our game. It just felt like it was going to be a good night. So overall, I was having a good time. And, it's funny. Well, not like funny, like ha 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 funny. But it's a little ironic, right? Where it's kind of like we all knew this was going to happen with the Blues. We all knew that they were gonna have a good game against the Canucks. I am gonna say this though, which is a very interesting thing about St. Louis, is overall, this is a team that isn't surprising. They're very predictable. And I think, having all those days off it wasn't, like, the worst thing, I think, for them. I think that it was actually more beneficial and helped them, but, yeah, I was pretty happy with how last night went. So, in the first period, about a minute in, Vancouver did score, which was honestly a really awful way to start off the game. That kinda put me down a little bit. I was like, "Ooh, this is not gonna be a good one." And I just remember I was looking at my friends, and I'm like, "Oh, man, this is not how I want tonight to go." Robert Thomas just got announced as the All-Star. I felt really good about heading back to Enterprise, and, I just felt like this was going to be a good game, but usually when the Blues don't score first, they lose. That's just been the pattern all season. So I was a little bit concerned. We then go to the second period, and Colton Parayko scored his 7th goal of the season, equalizing the game one apiece, assisted by Robert Thomas, which is his 25th assist of the season, and Jordan Kyrou with his 18th. We then move on to the third period. Again, the game is equalized 1-1. Well, who ends up scoring? I want you to tell me why Robert Thomas is so bleeping clutch. RT, of course, scores 16th goal of the season, assisted by Scott Perunovic and Pavel Buchnevich. And it's funny because um, this really does solidify why Robert Thomas was selected to be the All-Star. Yeah, the Blues ended up winning 2-1. And it was one of those things where I wasn't surprised that the Blues won, but I was a little surprised at how dominant Robert Thomas was. I was kind of hoping for a little bit of a Nathan Walker action. I mean, he was fine. It wasn't like he had a bad game, but again, Thomas has been nothing but dominant. And you could even make the argument that Buchnevich has been dominant as well. I think that he's stepped up a lot. Um, and the thing about Pavel Buchnevich is that he is huge for the assists, and he's such a good playmaker, and he's not selfish with the puck. So I think that when you have them together like that, you're going to most of the time get some nice goals in the net. So I was happy with his performance last night, both of them. But even Scott Perunovic, I mean, I know that him and Tyler Tucker were rotating on who would come up and who would go down to the Thunderbirds. And I thought Scotty P has been doing a great job solidifying himself on the ice. He really does play well against that blue line. And the nice thing about Scott Perunovic that I do have to say is that you can tell that his confidence has built over the season. And I think having that time with the Thunderbirds has been beneficial because it allowed him more ice time. And I think for guys that are a little bit younger, still trying to develop, getting on the ice as much as possible is going to help them with their longevity. And yeah, so overall, I was impressed with last night's performance. Now, I am going to say this: the Canucks are such a good team, but nail the Blues. I mean, I know they lost to the Avs the other night, right? But they did beat Colorado before the season. So just hear me out. They're beating a lot of these good teams. Does this make you wonder what they would be like in the playoffs if they played this way against the good teams now? And obviously in the playoffs, it's going to be nothing but good teams. That maybe they can make a little bit of a run. That's only if they get in. But it does make me kind of question just a little bit about how they would potentially be. It does make you question things. But man, if you did not see that goal by Robert Thomas, I really encourage you to look at it. It was a beauty. Like RT was right there and just got that puck in the back of the net. And oh my gosh. I think Robert Thomas is such a clutch player. But the Blues needed that win, especially under Drew Bannister. This was the first time where they were really up against going against a losing streak. And for having Drew, your new coach, you really want to fight and play hard for him. So this was a really important game for the Blues to solidify that. I do think that Kevin Hayes' line actually didn't play a bad game. I know I was a little bit critical on them, but I just feel like Kevin Hayes is more beneficial as a winger than he is as a center. And again, it's one of those things where I think that he is a good hockey player. I think that he's had a little bit of a rough season, but it doesn't make me feel any better with not how he's been. That's a bad term, but just I guess how I don't see him progressing as much. Is that the right term? But I thought the boys took really good dominance of the ice last night, and they really made it their home. I mean, obviously it was their home ice, right? But it was really good. So I really enjoyed it. And this is what was said about Thomas. I think the offensive side comes very easy to him. Obviously, he has to work with it, but he sees the ice so well. He's shooting the puck a lot more. He's built into that game. The defensive side for any skilled hockey player is always the one thing that kind of lags a little bit. But I think with Robbie, we're starting to see him really mature into a really good two-way hockey player. And this was something I said at the beginning of the season, by the way. um, sorry, I saw one of the YouTube comments. This is live from the rink, and I have a virtual background. But at the beginning of the season, I said that I wanted Robert Thomas to shoot the puck more. I think that he is such a good team player, but I do think at times I'm going to talk about this coming up. But I do think at times he wasn't as I don't like to use the word selfish. I just think that he could have taken more opportunities where he could have been the one to score. But again, uh, you know, it's fine because the boys are buzzing. I am so happy about the win last night. You know what also makes me happy? It is FanDuel who makes me happy. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get 150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's 150 bucks in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays, find bets, and the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. And it's the best way to find really popular parlays, by the way. So it's super easy to find and so much more. So what you need to do is visit fanduel.com/locked on and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So there's this guy who's on the Blues, and he's been a real sniper, yeah. And he's been killing it, yeah. And his name is Robert Thomas. Robert Thomas. And I know I talked about this like literally a minute ago, but this is what I want to say. I have never been so impressed with a player in such a long time. I think that at the end of the day, when you look at the future of the Blues, who do you imagine? Who do you imagine being here long term? Robert Thomas. You imagine Robert Thomas. I think that Robert Thomas has stepped up so much this season, not only with his leadership, not only with his ability on ice, but his overall hockey IQ, with getting in front of the net, screening, and his screens have been phenomenal because I think at the end of the day, that's how goals get in is by being able to rebound them in. So I think that he's been really smart about his positioning on ice. He hasn't really taken any bad penalties. And I think his defense, I mean, Bannister said it, but I completely agree that his defense has been stepping up. I mean, to be a solid two-way hockey player, it is not an easy task. There's not a lot of hockey players that you can confidently say are solid two-way guys on the ice. But with Robert Thomas, he's using his body. He may not be the biggest guy on the ice, but he's definitely using his body with the checks. And I think that that's something that I have been really happy about is seeing him really just throw himself out there. And this is the thing. You have a team right now within the Blues that may not, may not be the best. Okay. And I understand that. Uh, by the way, yes, Kessel did play. I was just referring to a YouTube comment. I'm live on YouTube and just wanted to answer that. But when you have a team that is, as I said, not as good, a team that could potentially be a wild card team, you need the younger guys, you need the leaders on the team to step up. And all season long, he has stepped it up. He has been phenomenal. Sure, right now he is. I think this is his third game in a row where he has scored, if I'm not mistaken. Now that I think about it, I have to double check. But he has been scoring a lot lately. I mean, when doesn't he? And I think that also is a confidence boost within the other guys on the team. Because when you see Robert Thomas improving, who else have you noticed has been improving? Okay. I'm going to tell you, and you're going to be a little bit shocked. You're going to be like, no, I didn't even realize that. Scott Perunovich. I know. Haley, whoa, mind blown. That is true. And I've been watching this a lot because I genuinely have a theory that when you have a leader that's been playing better, it inspires other players to play better. And when they play with that person, they will be better. Scotty P has been improving because of Robert Thomas, 100%. I also think that Buchnevich has been playing some of his best hockey in a while. So he's another guy. I mean, after he got benched, I just saw a completely different Pavel Buchnevich, and he's been stepping up too. Now, here's the thing. The World Juniors came to an end, and USA won. And I'm really excited about Snuggie, I have to tell you. I think that he's going to come up April, May, and play a couple games here in St. Louis. It's funny. I did say that, I could see them maybe having him if they're not going to go to the playoffs. But even so, what's the harm about having him up here a little bit? He was such a solid player in that World Juniors, and I why not? You're not going to win the cup this season. You might, okay? I'm not like I want my Blues to win, but they might. There's always a chance. But at the same time, I want to see how these guys compete with these younger players that they drafted. I mean, this World Juniors, if you've watched it, then you know what I'm talking about, was some of the best hockey I have watched in a long time. A lot of the games truly were very intense, high scoring, competitive. And these players, I mean, it's unbelievable that they're as young as they are because they played, I feel like, better than some of these NHL teams have played. So I'm not saying the Blues, like I'm saying like just like in general. But I don't know, like, I just felt like it was really good hockey, and I'm gonna miss it. I would wake up, like, at really weird times to watch the games. Yeah, we're gonna see a lot of the younger guys soon. Yeah. Yeah, we will. Rob was naming some players, we will. I think that late March or early April, then yes. I think it would be foolish not to, bring these guys up. I really have a theory on that. And I'm going to do a whole episode talk about the younger guys that will be brought up. I just wanted to congratulate Team USA on that victory and just kind of say, you know what? Armstrong would be foolish not to allow these kids to come up and have a chance this season. So that would make me a very happy person to see that. Okay. I'm going to do a little bit of a read and then I'm going to talk about the problem with the Blues. And then, of course, Are We Feeling Blue Friday? So, my favorite time of the year. It's almost the halfway point of this season, Blues fans. And I cannot believe that the Blues still have a shot. Regardless of where we are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. And this is where players like Robert Thomas, Pavel Buchnevich, Jordan Kyrou, Kevin Hayes if he steps up, a Braden Shen if he scores. Okay, now I'm being mean. Will record more or less in their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Blues fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nailing your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Okay. I know it's an Are We Feeling Blue Friday. I don't know why I was saying I can't sing, but I will say this. There is one thing that I am not happy about. And I will get into the rest of the week because I do think this was a good week for the Blues. But of course, it is the power play. We are 31st in the NHL. And when we're on the power play, we have an 11.3% chance of capitalizing off of it. That's really bad. It's really bad, yeah. Um, I will talk more about the power play and what I think needs to be addressed. But I also just wanted to kind of just put it out there that if you, like me, are a little concerned about the power play, you have a right to be because our PK is actually really good. But I thought that was an interesting stat to throw out there. So, yeah. Someone said Subban is awful. He should be in the ECHL. Yeah, not good. He's not good. Okay. So on Twitter at Locked On Blues, I said, was this a good week for the Blues? 68% of you said yes. 1% of you said no. Okay, Chicago. And then 31 of you said 31% of you said, eh. I have a question. How was this not a good week for the Blues? I feel like this was a great week for St. Louis. They beat the Canucks. That's it. Um, uh, um, that was it. Yeah, I mean, we have Justin Folk that's on injured reserve. Nothing else really happened. That was the one game that they played. Yeah, I would say this was a good week for the Blues. If you're saying, I want to know why. I mean, our USA team just won the World Juniors, so that's a plus. I can't really think of anything that's bad that happened this week. Am I missing something? Like, is there somebody that's like upset over the fact that the Blues might just be successful? Because if you're an opposing fan of another team, that's so cool. Like, good for you. Like, woohoo, let's do that hockey. But you don't have to take it out on my Twitter poll. So I thought this was gonna be the first poll where every single one was gonna be like, yeah, this was a great week for the Blues. And now I'm like, oh no. Will I ever get that? Probably not. So, St. Louis. Guess what? We have hockey tomorrow night at Carolina. They take on the Hurricanes. And this will be a fun game because Sebastian Aho and Robert Thomas, for some reason, so RT, obviously our guy, Sebastian Aho, obviously their guy, but for some reason they are so similar with how they play. So I'm excited to see how these two teams match up. So Carolina is second in the Metropolitan Division with 21 wins, 13 losses, 4 overtime losses, which still gives them points. And they have 46 points right now. St. Louis, well, okay. We're sixth in the Central. 19 wins, 17 losses, 1 OTL, and we have 39 points. So here's the thing. This Central Division is so much more competitive than the Metropolitan Division. At least I think so. Um I think okay. Here we go. Am I going to be delusional for a second? Yeah. I think that St. Louis is going to beat the Canes. I know, I really do. But again, I feel like I'm a little delusional because, well, the Carolina Hurricanes are on a 5-game win streak. You know what I'm saying? So like that kind of makes me a little bit concerned. They beat Nashville 5-2, Montreal 5-3, Toronto. I mean, did I say 5? I meant 4. I can't do math. Toronto 3-2, and New York 6-1. And New York is the leading team in the Metropolitan with 53 points, so that does concern me. But here's the thing. I think that the Blues are going to be coming off of this game against the Canucks. The Canucks are better than the Canes. I truly believe that. I think the Canucks play with more speed. So it's just one of those things where I truly do think that the Blues are going to win. But whenever I say they're going to win, sometimes they win, but sometimes they don't win. So you truly never know if the game of hockey, especially not St. Louis Blues hockey. I said this jokingly, but it's so accurate. This is the one team where I don't think you could ever predict how they're going to play. Like most of the teams in the NHL, you can usually predict how they're going to play, if you think they're going to win or not. The Blues, they're the one team in the NHL where I struggle with like seeing how they're going to do. I don't know. Maybe I'm just I don't know, maybe I just set myself up for disappointment, honestly, but I'm happy because we beat the Canucks and Robert Thomas is an all-star. So good job, Robert Thomas, from your favorite fan, me. And yes, the Blues need more points. Absolutely. I don't like that they have 39 right now. I would have liked to go into the new year at least having 40. So definitely trying to get those 41 points tomorrow night. But if they go to OT, I'll settle for the having 40. You know who's actually kind of surprised me in our division? It's been Nashville. They've been actually playing quite well. I was a little surprised about that, to be honest, because I thought Nashville was going to really hit the struggle bus more so than Minnesota, but they've actually been playing some good competitive hockey. So a little surprising. They did lose to the Flames 6-3, but who knows? It's hockey. anything can happen. And speaking of anything that can happen, well, you know what I do here in my episode, so let's do it together, okay? 3, 2, 1. Let's go, Blues.